15,000 doctors left the NHS prematurely between 2022 and 2023, and it's thought a third of those went and left the country. All this year we've been seeing news stories about millionaires exiting the UK, people leaving the UK left, right and centre, and doctors are not exempt. Doctors are leaving the NHS and they are leaving the UK to lead better quality of lives elsewhere. I've been a doctor in the NHS for over 10 years and it's not new. Doctors have gone to Australia, New Zealand, the Americas, and some of those have been permanent moves, but more often than not, doctors do come back. They do come back home. Where the vibe I'm getting now is doctors aren't coming back. They're leaving and they're leaving for good. So if you're a doctor and you're watching this video, have you made the jump? Have you left the UK? Have you left the NHS? If you've not left, I'd like to know what are some of your reasons for staying. In this video, I'm going to highlight reasons I think people are leaving, why people are staying. And if you're a member of the public and you're worried, oh my gosh, am I going to get to see a doctor in the UK? Don't worry. As many as doctors are leaving, lots and lots of doctors from around the world desire to come into the UK and into our system. So we're good. So let's get into the video. The GMC reported that 10,000 doctors left the UK over a 5-year period. That's a staggering amount if you think about the numbers that come through medical school. And like I said, there are lots of doctors coming from all around the world who are coming into the UK and in fact putting up the competition ratios for UK trained doctors. So there is this constant push and pull in staffing within the NHS. Where are these doctors going when they leave the UK? All over the world, like literally all over the world. People go to America, they do an exam, they go to Canada, they go to Australia, New Zealand. There's an increasing amount of doctors moving to the Middle East, places like Qatar, Saudi, the UAE. But there are also some places that you wouldn't even think of. So I know doctors who've moved to places like Bermuda. And why? Why are they leaving? So the number one reason is pay. It's pay, let's just be honest. And probably now it's probably pay and taxes. So if I were to look at a consultant salary in the UK, this is publicly available knowledge, starting salary is about £105,000, which is a lot of money. But if you compare it to the counterparts in America, who would earn about 3 times more. In Canada, probably about 2.5 times more. In Australia, 2.5 times more. Places like the Middle East, it'd be 2 times more, 2.5 times more. But then you factor in the no tax. That actually really equates to 4 times more if you're going from the UK to the UAE. Obviously, I don't really know about all the tax systems elsewhere in the world, but if you can think that you get such a pay jump for doing the same job, it's almost a no-brainer. Now in the UK, can you earn extra money as a doctor aside your NHS job? Of course you can take up private work, but that's often in your own time and in your own hours. Secondly, it's working conditions. Now, when I first decided I wanted to be a doctor, I had lots of people in my ear, don't do it, don't do it. Obviously I ignored them. And now as someone on the other end, the NHS has changed a lot. I mean, I came into it, I'm an obstetrics and gynecology doctor. I came into it being like, I want to be of service to women. And obviously that's still my job, but the system is so tangled, the waiting lists are so long, women are not getting the care that they deserve or they expect. And there is public outcry really for women's health in the UK, arguably across the world as well. And it's just harder to work in those environments. It means that the fear of litigation is higher, the fear of blame is higher, the working environment doesn't feel as friendly as probably it once felt. People are struggling with their lower pay, high inflation, and they come to work and it's just not always a pleasant environment. The working conditions, knowing that you need 5 different computer systems, sometimes the emphasis is on the wrong things. All of that will play a part into how people feel about doing their jobs. Something I've heard about people who've left the country is, oh, the system is too admin heavy, it's too overly regulated, and it's not really translating into better care. So things like that will affect how someone feels in the system, and that might be like a motivation to leave. Thirdly, you wouldn't imagine with all the Daily Mail news headings about staffing crisis, not enough doctors, you can't see your GP. But believe it or not, there are GPs who are currently looking for work. The job security that was once promised to us in the NHS just no longer exists. It just doesn't exist anymore. People who are fully trained GPs are struggling to get jobs, struggling to get locum pay. There's a barrier almost on how much they should be earning that is out of bounds with economics and market demands because it's a government-owned system. There are doctors who are leaving medical school now, and because of the influx of international medical graduates, their competition ratios are really high and people are struggling to get jobs. And if you were to factor that in and you were like, I can't get a job in the country which I trained, of course your eye starts looking yonder field, looking for somewhere that you could be employed with the skills that you have. And I come on to my last point, and it's quality of life. And I think this is different for different people. So I speak a lot about this with my colleagues at work, and we live in London. And if you know that you're on a fixed salary across the UK, living in London is probably not the smartest thing. And I remember being a second year postgraduate doctor, and this is what one of my colleagues told me, my consultant colleagues. He was like, why would you choose to live in London knowing your salary is the same all across the country? And if you're living in London, your quality of life will be reduced. But as someone like me who grew up in London, my family's in London, my friends are in London, the thought of moving to Yorkshire, for instance, is not on my radar. So the quality of life, I think, that argument really depends about where you work and who your sort of social network is. But you can't deny the weather. Wherever you live in the UK, you're gonna have miserable winters. Thankfully it's getting warmer, but you do have lovely summers. So again, I remember working with someone who was like, every winter I want to leave the country, and by the summer I forget. And I think I'm pretty much in that cycle myself. So let's move on to the positives. Why are doctors staying? They're staying because it's familiar. Like I said, I grew up in East London, I went to university in East London, I work in East London, and there's just something so comforting about treating patients who I know and feel familiar with. Working in a system that I'm familiar with. I'm coming up to the end of my specialty training, and I've been trained to work in this system. So to go abroad and have to really learn things from scratch is quite scary and can be quite daunting. I have so much sympathy for some of my colleagues who have trained as a consultant in Nigeria, Pakistan, India, and they come over here and they're really having to start from scratch. And that process can be so daunting, it can be really low, especially if you don't have supportive colleagues around you. Family is a big reason. I think again, when you're coming up to the end of your training, you're in your mid-30s, likely to have young children if you choose to, but also likely to have aging parents. And there's something really hard about moving, I think, 8, 9, 10 hours away from aging parents, because heaven forbid if something happens, you're just too far away. Now, is that a reason to not go? For some people it is. For some people it really is enough of a reason to stay. And like I said as well, the pay thing is debatable, because there are some people in some specialties who can make really good money privately so that their salaries are countering what you would expect in other parts of the world. And for them, again, it might not be worth the move just for money. Lots of factors have to be at play. So I've given you, I think, 4 reasons why people are leaving, a few reasons why people are probably not leaving. I've reassured you, I hope, that even if people are leaving, there are people that are coming into the system. And the system itself has to change. With the news of NHS England closing, I'm hoping that leads to positive change. I'm hoping that the powers that be know what they're doing, and it's leading to positive change for funding in the NHS and how the system works at large. If you are a doctor, are you staying or are you going? And if you're going, where are you going? What's life like there? Drop it in the comments below. Let's really understand what systems are around the world. Is it worth going for a little bit and then coming back? Is it worth going and taking a permanent move? I, for one, I am in training. I have no plans to go anywhere anytime soon. I live in La La Land and probably fantasize. I remember one time thinking about going to Australia, but let's be honest, I am not going to Australia. So I would love to hear from you in the comments below. Are you staying? Are you going? And let me know your reasons why. If you've made it this far, I'm Remy, obstetrics and gynecology doctor. I work in London, and this channel really is about sharing my experiences in my career, being an obs-gynae trainee, being a mother, and intentional living at the end of it all. Stick around, please subscribe, please like, and see you in my next video.